In this short video, I want to show you how I'd actually use Endor Labs with GitHub Copilot when it comes to working in a legacy codebase, the kind most of us deal with day to day. What I want to show here is how Endor Labs works alongside your LLM when you're dealing with a real existing codebase. Endor will help with three different things. Firstly, understanding the security risks of any new changes made by the AI coding assistant, in this case Copilot. Secondly, recommending which dependencies can be upgraded based on multiple risk factors, including reachability. And lastly, and just as important, understanding the difficulty of the fix when it comes to upgrading dependencies in a legacy project like this one. So this is a small demo app that represents a typical legacy service. It's a Python API that manages blog articles and users, that type of thing. It already exists, it already runs, and it already has a few dependencies that I didn't pick and I don't frequently use, to be honest. So the first thing I did was run a full Endor scan. We ran an SCA scan to understand the dependency landscape, a static analysis scan to establish a baseline for the code, and a secret scan. So this is our starting point. We've provided a set of rules that Copilot needs to follow when making any changes to this codebase. So let's go ahead and prompt the LLM to make a change. The guardrails will shape how Copilot behaves in this repo. It has to check the code changes it made by scanning them with Endor Labs. It has to put that feedback straight back into the chat. And crucially, if it introduces a security issue, it's required to fix it before moving on. So the flow is Copilot makes the change, Endor evaluates that change, the results come back immediately, and Copilot patches what it broke. So as a developer, it doesn't feel like, here's a vulnerability, good luck. It feels more like, you made a mess, clean it up before we continue. Let's let this fast forward. Excellent, now that's finished, the security scans are complete, and the new code is clean. So here is the part I wish I'd really had years ago. As we ran a scan earlier, we can now ask whether there are any vulnerabilities that are actually reachable from within the codebase. And what Endor Labs is going to do is check whether a vulnerability exists. It's looking at my application and see how the application calls into that vulnerability. So at a function level, it traces the entry points into my application, the functions I actually call, and whether those can flow into a vulnerable function inside of a direct or a transitive dependency. It enables us to prioritize the things that matter. So let's do that now. Great, now that's finished, you can see that it's surfaced 4 reachable findings, all of which are highs and criticals. It's also made a recommendation as to the upgrade path that we can follow for these particular dependencies. The next question I usually have in a legacy project like this is, okay, but what happens if I actually upgrade this? Endor helps to answer that by showing the impact of upgrading a dependency to a specific version. That means it understands which parts of the library you use, either directly or indirectly, and can detect breaking changes, such as parts of the library which have been refactored. It also helps us understand whether upgrading to version 1.1, 1.2, or 1.3 is likely to be a low risk or a big refactor. So instead of being told just to upgrade this dependency, I can choose the fix that actually makes sense for this code base right now. And now we have the recommended fix version, I can just ask the LLM to do that for us. What I like about this setup is that it reduces second guessing. I don't have to stop, switch tools, or wait for CI to tell me that I messed up. It's a much nicer way to work. None of this replaces CI or PR checks. Those are still important, but the difference is by the time the code gets there, most of the obvious issues are already dealt with. So that's how I'd use Endor Labs with GitHub Copilot to make changes in a legacy codebase with a bit more confidence and a bit less noise. Thank you for watching.